Good morning. My name is Courtney Muir. I'm with the State Construction Department. We're going to give everybody a few minutes to log in. It looks like we only have a few attendees, so we'll get started in 2 or 3 minutes. Good morning. My name is Courtney Muir. I'm with the planning team for the State Construction Department. And I have a few joining me today. Karen Moon and Steve McDonald, they're both project managers with the state. Shelby Carlson, she's our administrator. And Amber Leach, she is also part of the planning team and will be one of the contacts for this process. I'm going to let Shelby kick us off and then we'll get started.
Right. Thank you, Courtney. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2024 Charter School Facility Planning webinar. We appreciate you being here this morning, and we look forward to working through the facility planning process with you. By statute, we're required to do this every 2 years. We would like to take that back to doing it annually because we think there's a lot of value in us getting together and visiting. Through your facility plan, there's a lot can change in a year, and so there's just value in getting together and making sure everything we have in the system is accurate to benefit both the state and the charter school. So that's what we plan to do moving forward. Historically, we have done these meetings in the early winter, January, February, March. We have shifted them back to the fall this year. Couple reasons for doing that. The first being it will allow us to prepare a budget in a more timely fashion. We actually start working on putting a budget together as early as February, March. And so we will be through that process, whereas before, when everything was really buttoned up in April, it was pretty late for us to pull that budget together with any confidence in pretty short order. So it will help the budgeting process, as well as the planning department here also does all of the planning for the state-owned buildings, and such as the penitentiary. And so it allowed them more time than in the spring to go through the state building planning process. They actually have a little more time on the state building side to get that approved. We go before the commission in July for approval, and they have another month or so before they get approval from SBC. So it allows them a window as well. So with that, we look forward to working with you, and I'm going to pass it back to Courtney unless there's any questions for me before we get started. All right, okay, thank you.
Good. So once again, my name is Courtney Muir. I know many are brand new to this process, so we'll try to kind of explain from a high level view of what it looks like. So Amber Leach and I were on the planning team. We split the state in half, so you'll work with one of us through this process. And kind of how it goes is we'll start where we meet with each charter school individually with what we call like a pre-meeting, which is kind of like a kickoff meeting. And we'll go through your charter's facility plan. They're all so unique that that's really kind of when we'll get into the nuts and bolts of your charter and your scenarios. So we'll go through like about an hour-long meeting, the initial kickoff meeting, and you'll have about 3 weeks to a month to go and work through your facility plan and fill out all of the information. We're here to answer questions as you work on it. And then once that time period's done, we'll have like a little review meeting to look at what you've completed, make sure you don't have any questions. And then after that, we'll have a third and final meeting, and that's what we call our facility plan meeting. And that's kind of when all the representatives from your charter, as many representatives from our department that can be there, will meet together. We'll go over your facility plan and answer any questions, kind of talk about the individual scenarios, and that meeting will be recorded so we can go back to it at a later date. So that's kind of how the process looks. Right now on your screen, you can see the State Construction Department website. it might be good for you to get in there and kind of familiarize yourself with it. There's a section called school facilities where you can go in. There's a section for planning and finance. You'll see past facility plans for districts in here. Just kind of some good resources if you want to look through that. Another good tab that I'm going to point out is the AIM over here on the right. So we have all of our information for your facilities in what we call the AIM or Operate database. So you're going to want to get login credentials for AIM, at least one representative from your charter school. So if you click School Facilities Tenant 1, you'll see right here where it says School Facilities AIM User Request Form, and that's going to take you to a Google document for you to fill out. If you have issues, because we know each charter is kind of is different, you can reach out to us, but this will be submitted to one of our colleagues who will get you credentials to our AIM database.
On that, remember the district.
So yeah, when you're filling out that, you're going to have to fill it out underneath your district name that you're within, even though you may not be affiliated with them. We currently don't have user login information for each charter as like a main category. So when you're filling it out, just put the district that your charter lies within. And so here is what we have is the Charter School Facility Plan template. This is a dynamic document. We're constantly changing it, trying to update it to fit the charter schools the best we can and get all the information that we need for our planning purposes and budgeting purposes. So the first page is just kind of like an introductory page. We'll put in that pre-meeting that I discussed where we'll meet individually with each charter, and that will be in the upcoming weeks. The final review meeting date will go here, and then the facility plan meeting, and that's when all representatives will meet and go over this together. Typically, we do that video conference, but sometimes if a charter or district is local, they'll hop into our office and we'll meet face to face. So these are just kind of some of the representatives who normally attend the meeting. We'll put everybody's names here just kind of as a log for future reference of who joined us. We were just talking about the AIM or Operate database. Let's say you are currently in a district-owned building and you see a discrepancy. You're going to want to update AIM. Maybe the square footage is incorrect. We have a link right within our facility plan that you can click on, and it's going to bring up a Google document. I'm having a little technical difficulties, but we can kind of go into that in more detail. But that Google document will take you through the steps of what you need to update our database. So the first section we have is this kind of just pertains to every charter school. We want to know this information. It helps our fiscal team with budgetary things that they might need and just for planning purposes. So we ask you to fill out your charter's name, the district that you're physically located within, your physical address. And then another tool, so this is a new kind of table that we recently added. We want to know your plans, and we know this could change on your end, but we're just asking for districts, or excuse me, charters to put in your planned grade configurations. We know many are planning to grow, so that's why we added that here. And also, please just add your charter approval date and charter expiration date. We know some charters have been approved through their local school board and district, whereas we have new ones that are approved through the SLIB board. So you would add that information here. Next, we're going to go on to your lease agreement. So there's 3 different scenarios for each charter. You might be in a district-owned building, or the district owns the building. You're in a building that you're leasing from a third party, or maybe the charter school owns their own building. So you're going to want to click which scenario fits your charter. So if the district owns the building, we ask that you provide a floor plan, and in that floor plan, we need to know for budgetary purposes how you're using each room. So, and we'll go into detail and explain this more, I guess, when we meet with you. But for instance, we would want to know you're using a room as a kindergarten room, a gym, an art room, because this is all information that we gather and then we report that to WDE. We also are going to want to know how many classrooms there are. That way we know how many teacher stations is what it's called to report to WDE. So that's kind of why we're asking for this information. And then here you would just add the terms of the agreement. Next, we have if the building is owned by a third party, same thing, we ask for a floor plan with your location usages. We want to just double check that you did submit the lease to our department. And then the details can be added here. Another question that we ask, and we can help you guys with this, is just determining if there's adequate space within the district to hold your charter school. So that's just kind of one of the many questions that we'll ask and help you guys fill out in this process. And then lastly, the building is owned by the charter school. So let's say you guys bought your own building. This is the button you would click here for that scenario. And within the template, you'll notice we have references to legislative statutes. That's just kind of informational purposes, show you why we're asking what we are asking. The next category we have is funding agreement with the state. So when we meet for our actual facility plan meeting, we're going to try to have someone from our fiscal team join us. That way they can kind of go into this in more detail. This is not necessarily my wheelhouse, but this is information that she needs to gather from you guys for budgetary purposes. So that's why we ask for terms of your funding agreement. And then this is also something we need for funding purposes. This table here, we're going to ask, let's say you guys only lease a portion of a facility. So we ask for the total gross square footage of that facility, and then what you guys are leasing specifically. So maybe right now you're just leasing a quarter of it, but your plans are and your hopes are to eventually extend into the whole building. Those are kind of the reasons why we're asking the questions here. And then we will complete this part for each individual charter school. This is your WDE enrollment. So we get those enrollment numbers about December of every year. So right now we still are going off of last year's enrollment. By December we should have 2024's enrollment, because that's gathered October 1st by the district, reported to WDE. They go through the information, and then it's about December by the time they get it to us. We understand we have many new charters, so if you guys were not operating last year, we're going to get that information off of your March 1st application. And then another portion we'll fill out for each charter is an allowable square feet calculator that we have. So based on your enrollment numbers, we will put that information in, as well as your configuration of your school. So let's say you're a K-6, all of that will be calculated of how much square feet your charter is allowed. So we'll put that information here. And then this is another question we can help you guys fill out, but we want to make sure that your lease is within the allowable square feet. So that's why we ask this question. And another useful piece of information that's going to help us with planning purposes is your district or charter planning to construct an addition onto the facility. And before a charter school was to do that, there is information that we need, such as your estimated square footage of the addition, the date that you plan to open the addition, and when the certificate of occupancy is estimated. So the next few sections or categories, these are only going to pertain to our charters that are in a district-owned building. So if you are in a charter-owned building or a building that's leased by a third party, you're going to just go ahead and skip to section 11. So here we have what we call the Tracts and Deeds report. And this is a report that Amber and I will insert in here, and it'll show the acreage information for the land that your charter school resides on. We want you just to look at it, make sure that you don't see anything flagging. This is also something that we go over with each district for them to verify that information. This is another piece that we use to report to WDE for groundskeeper allowance. So much of this information that we gather goes into funding models. So that's why we ask these questions. And then we'll insert what we call a property profile report. You'll just double check again, make sure you don't see anything flagging. This information impacts the major maintenance calculator as well as WDE operations funding model. Capacity, so this is a section that Amber and I will fill out. We'll show the capacity of your school from last year, and then once we're able to calculate it for the school year of 2024. We also have an enrollment projection spreadsheet that we'll add in here that it uses the last 10 years of enrollment data, which there's maybe only a couple charters right now that have that information, but it used that trailing data to project out what they think the enrollment will be in the future. This is just a planning tool for us. We know there are other different factors that go into each charter and district as far as what might happen in 5 or 10 years, but it's just kind of one of many planning tools that we use. So in 2023, we had a condition assessment, and so if you're in a district-owned building, we're going to add the information from that condition assessment showing the condition of your specific school. So that's what will be added here. And then we have major maintenance. So one thing we like to do is, let's say you're in a district-owned building and they are updating the flooring. So there's currently a work order out for that. We just want to make sure we're going to pull all of our open work orders for your building and just double check that you guys they're still open, so there's still a work in progress, or maybe you've closed or canceled. We're just going to update those statuses to keep our database as clean as possible. So that's why we have this section here. And then needs review. So typically school districts and charters will receive appropriations based off of capacity and condition needs. We understand that there can be circumstances outside of those two needs where a charter or district might have a justified need of something that's never going to show up through capacity or condition. So that's kind of why we have this section here. It's not necessarily meant to be a wish list, but a justified need that you guys might have. So you would fill out this section here if you guys believe you have one of these needs. And then lastly, we know, especially with charter schools, they all differ. So if there's something that we did not touch in the template above that you guys want to talk about or maybe emphasize, you can just add it into your charter notes. In this section here, and this is where you'll type all of your notes. I guess I should have said that at the beginning, but anything outside of what we've discussed that you want to talk about, you'll add it into this section 11. And lastly, so like I said, representatives from your charter and maybe somebody from your district might join. And we have the district signature on here because even though you guys may be separate from them, your funding flows through the district, so that's why it's important to have that relationship here and present. So we'll meet with all the representatives, and after we meet, we're going to send this out for signature from a representative from your charter as well as the district. And this signature, it doesn't necessarily say, oh, I agree with everything we discussed, but it's just solidifying, yes, we did meet, we did discuss the above information. So that is kind of a high-level view of what our charter school facility plan template looks like. I'm going to ask my team if they have anything to add, and then we'll open it for questions. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? You can raise your hand, and we'll give you an open mic. Also, keep in mind that we'll answer all your questions as we go through this process individually with each charter. So this isn't your only opportunity to ask questions. Okay, I don't see anything. So we did record this webinar today. We're going to post it on our website in case you want to refer back to it. We'll be in touch with each charter school. Feel free to reach out to myself, Courtney Muir, or Amber Leach if you guys have questions in the meantime. And thanks for joining us today. We look forward to meeting with you.